let's move into the weekly preview. And as always, we kick off the weekly preview with our buy, hold, sell, watch segment. And we always start with the buy, so let's do that.
Target acquired.
Some people went early in this podcast, and it wasn't me.
No, it was me. Obviously, yeah. Well, he was the bad score. I was talking about what Teddy Lewis let me down. It was also David Armstrong. 204k minus 47 break even. Poor score last week. We actually spoke about this 2 weeks ago. We said that his work rate wasn't fantastic, just based off New South Wales Cup numbers and all that. But obviously does have attacking upside. He's probably not a play. You could play him on good matchups, but not someone I'd be prioritizing as a play. But still, minus 47 break even. Good job security. There's no reason for you not to buy him. I wouldn't be put off by the poor score last week. The only downside is his best score will come out of his rolling average first. So keep that in mind. The break even next week might not be as astronomical as a Schiller or a Trey Fuller from last week, but still think he's a solid play. And they got a good one on their hands in David Armstrong. I saw some highlights of Lockie Miller actually carving up in Super League over the weekend, and it brought me back that time of life when we had Lockie Miller for 5 weeks.
Because you started with Lockie Miller, didn't you, in most formats last year?
Yeah, it worked well. Worked well, and then obviously dropped for KP when he moved back to fullback. But yeah, I was just like, they've had a couple of fullbacks come through. I remember when KP played 6 back in 2020, I think they experimented that for a bit there as well, and it's just it's never worked. So it's just funny. Talking about ex fullbacks, Ruben Garrick 689k minus 36 break even, mate. You're an owner. You bought him at about 600. 689 still a pretty good discount to get on a season-long keeper.
Oh, absolutely. I think, people have watched maybe for 2 weeks and have gone, I'm not 100% sure. A lot of people didn't jump on naturally when he had the 145 break even, as you wouldn't. Only a madman to do that. But he did score again this week, and he did look good. So, yeah, I think the one, I guess, this is probably the last week to get Ruben Garrick with the matchup coming up, because then they've got a couple of real tough ones leading into that origin period as well. So this week or never, I think, at least for the short term. But yeah, minus 36 break even. If he comes out and he puts a score on the Dolphins this week, which is every chance of happening, he could be honestly near 800k next week. So
I think people that are fading are hoping for a 50-point game. He's still going to make a bulk ton of cash, but you want that 50 in that rolling average for when those tough matchups do come in, and hopefully we can pick him up over the origin period at a cheaper price. Talking about former Supercoach glory, Dom Young, 549k. We touched on him on Sunday, said that we were eyeing him off, and no surprise, he's made his way into the buy list with a -4 break even. We saw how destructive he can be. He is rocks or diamonds. He's Alex Johnson, he's Jason Saab. He's one of these guys that's very up and down, but I think, much more potent Roosters attack this year. They're using him a lot, and at a -4 break even, you've got guys like Bostock, Schiller, Strange, all these guys that have topped out that seem like a no-brainer straight swap to Tom Young.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. We've got a lot of questions in the Discord from the Unlimited members asking, should I get Tom Young or Ruben Garrick, or, insert premium centre wing option, because there's a few that are kind of bottoming out now. And my pick probably every single time is Dom Young, just at the price. I think we're comparing a guy that's 550k to a lot of these options like your Manus, your Azarkos that are 750, 800k. So that 200k becomes valuable.
Yeah, he's not the best option in terms of pure point scoring, but for what you're getting, dollar per point, price at a 40 at a 54 compared to a Garrick, it's at nearly a 70, and a Manu at a very similar price as well. Obviously, if you got the money, go Garrick, but really liking Dom Young. It's probably the last week to jump on Angus Crichton, his Roosters teammate, 712k. He started the season at about 430 and bottomed out at about 380. And as I posted yesterday in my team of the season, he's made his way into the team of the season based off averages, which is incredible considering he's got a 38 and a 19 in his system. He's averaging something like 75. With a -52 break even this week, mate, if he goes again at, say, 100, he's eyeing down the barrel of 840, and at that stage it's just too late to buy him. So this is the last week to jump on Gus if you don't have him. I think so. And look, I've had a few questions again about Gus, and is it too late? For the most part, I think there's more value for money
when we're looking at, what people are trying to manipulate trades, and some people are boosting and some people have to, I guess, make a few sacrifices now to get Gus Crichton into their team. And is that worth it? So we're looking more in the territory of those 500 to 650 guys. But yeah, you're right. It's the last week to get on Gus. And he is a season-long keeper, regardless of whether he plays Origin or not. I don't think whether he plays Origin or not really matters when you're picking up a guy of his quality. I think he's just a lock and load every single week. So, and the last buy on the list, mate, is Scotty Drinkwater. Now, it's not often that we throw a guy with a 93 break even into the buy list, but he does play the Gold Coast Titans this week, and that could be huge. I'm predicting he probably covers his break even in this one. Spoiler alert, we talk captains at the end of an episode, but I think he's definitely a prime candidate for the C this week as well, along with another very obvious option. But the last time that Drinky played the Gold Coast, which was only 4 weeks ago, he scored 144. So if we're going on recent form, it's there for Drinky.
Yeah, I got burnt personally buying fullbacks at sky high break evens. So I'm going to let this one go through, but I'm definitely looking at him. And there's a bit of love in the chat here for your boy. One Alexander Brimson. Now he's going to break even at 10, 681k. Available at center wing, available at fullback, very similar to Ruben Garrick. Is there any reason why I guess he hasn't featured today? Because the draw, it's pretty handy. You got the Cowboys, the Knights, the Broncos, Souths. Broncos by Souths. Then plays a really nice sort of middle period. Warriors, Sharks, Warriors by Sharks, Para, Manly, Dolphins. He does miss 2 of the 3 major buys. Is that the only reason why we're not sort of slam dunk jumping on AJ?
Look, I just there's so many moving parts with this Titans lineup as well. Like with Tanner Boyd out, I was fully expecting him to come in at 5'8", but our man Chris Randall.
Don't expect Chris Randall to be the 5'8" safety. So my big concern, and probably yours as well, is that JC comes back, AJ to 6, and Brimo, or AJ at 6 and JC at fullback. I don't expect Chris Randall as the long-term savior.
Fucking way. Not a chance. Chris Randall will drop back to the bench, I would assume, or just go to hooker and then Verrills drops back to the bench. But
because Keane's been named at 14, so it's a very interesting shout there.
That's what I reckon. There's a little bit of ducks and drakes going on from Des here. I reckon there's every chance Keaney plays fullback in this one, Brimson to 6, and then Randall to the bench into the 14. Let's see how that plays out. But yeah, that's probably my hesitancy, I guess, around AJ Brimson. And I love him as a play, but we're starting to creep up to that kind of top end price point as well. And yeah, at 6, maybe not as interested as him at fullback.
Also doesn't have like some monster ceiling. I mean, 2021, his highest score was 93. 2022, his highest score was 139, which is great. 2023, his high score was 94. 2024, his high score was 94. So he doesn't have like some monster output. Oh, sorry, I think he might have scored 100 on the weekend. The SC stats page hasn't updated yet. Yeah, he's got 104. But he doesn't have like some monster ceiling. Like, yeah, he's overall very consistent. We're seeing 80, 64, 56, 67, and then 94 and 104. That 104 was against Melbourne, which is a really outlier sort of weird score.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Melbourne, beat Penrith 8-0, and we've seen them also beat the Warriors 30-28 or whatever it was. So like some little bit of inconsistencies, and that Melbourne side was very depleted. And then the Warriors score, we know they concede bulk points to spine players. So it's like I'm pegging him at sort of a 65-ish average, and I'm not sure I want to be paying 681 for that. So that's just my 2 cents on why we haven't included Brimo in the buys.
And look, we could sit here and we could name 10 buys, but you guys only have 2 to 3 trades every week. So we try to keep this list to 5 players or 5 players or less for each section. That's probably why he didn't make the list. There's some good options this week. So speaking of that, let's move on to the players you should hold. Now, first one on the list is Morgan Smithies, 489k, 55 break even. I think obviously this is team dependent on your holds for the most part, nearly every single week. But there is no real reason for you to move on Morgan Smithies unless it's to get a serious upgrade. He hasn't done poorly. He's actually been okay for the most part. He could comfortably be a 2RF5 this season that you can play every now and again when you get caught a little bit short.
Yeah, and like as we discussed on Sunday, like what upgrades are there? You know, Eli Katoa is now without Jerome Hughes, and every other good 2RF is probably going to go play Origin. So it's like there's really no amazing 2RF premium upgrades unless you're like happy to buy Fafita or Crichton, like knowing full well that they're going to be missing probably 6 of the next 9 weeks. It's just like, apart from that, there's no huge major upgrades at 2RF that I'm loving. So Morgan Smithies, yeah, absolutely fine hold. 55 break even, probably won't cover it, but he'll score 49 to 52 and you will lose no money. For me, that's fine. As is RTS. Like my RTS flag is firmly planted in the ground. People are acting like he is just us, and I don't really get it. Like he is fine. Like he has been a disappointment. Don't get me wrong, but he has not been a trap. He hasn't been like dreadful. We haven't lost money on him. Like he is not Justin Olam. Like people are acting like he is Justin Olam when it comes to Supercoach. Like he's scoring your 25s. Like he is ultra consistent. Warriors fans are screaming out for him to be on the wing, and I don't think it's long until Marcelo Montoya spends a bit of time in Reggie's. And then obviously Aui Leotawa would come into the centers, and then RTS would move to the wing. Like he's my current center wing 4, center wing 5, and that's fine. Like he's got a 57 break even, same as Smithies. He'll score 42. He'll score 52 to 55. If he gets an attacking stat, amazing. But it's like I'm just holding.
A couple of good comments here. RTS is just the middle child. He's done nothing great or bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to look at it.
That's fine. And right now, when everyone's team's falling apart, you've got Pappenhausen being injured, and you've just got like players going to Origin. You've got no good halfbacks. Cleary has got hamstrings made of cheese. Like all the other halfbacks are playing Origin. It's like I just need something reliable, and RTS is that guy. Like he is the guy. He is that X that you always hang on to because you know at 11:30 you can just text them, "Hey, you up?" Eggplant emoji, and it's just like all good. That a void in your life is filled. So RTS for me is my 11 p.m. booty call. Happy Coruscant, 551k, 97 break even. This isn't a product of him being amazing. It's just a product of Hooker, and it's like, who are we buying? Like, there's no confidence. I don't have confidence in buying Robson. I don't have confidence in buying Grant. Like Jeremy Marshall King is probably it, and also he's quite expensive.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I'm buying Grant, especially just based on what we've seen. Leading up to this point, he definitely hasn't hit the heights that we would have expected of Harry Grant this season. Jeremy Marshall King's been solid. Reece Robson's probably been the pick of the hookers this year for the most part. But for the most part, we're running like a Harry Grant and Joey Lussick combo, or we're running a Harry Grant / Robson / JMK and a bench hooker. For me, anybody who has Harry Grant, nobody else really becomes an option. I don't think it's smart to trade him out, and I don't think it's smart to play 2 premium hookers. That's pretty much my opinion on hooker. Obviously, people moved to Jaden Brayley last week, who would be relatively upset seeing Brennan Hands not on the bench and Bryce Cartwright back and Lussick looking at 80 minutes again. So that was always the risk, I guess, with that move. But yeah, if you got Appy, he's had a lean period, but he's not going to continue to score fucking 30 to 40 every week.
Putting PTSD bias aside, like 640k for Reed Marnie also feels kind of gross. Like going from Appy to Marnie feels a bit like it feels a bit like paying 600 plus k for Jermaine Jolliffe last week. It's like, sure, it's probably fine, but it's just a bit shit, and you feel a bit gross, and you have to like take 3 showers after you hit confirmed trade. I mean, Reed's been okay. His floor has been raised compared to last year. He's only had 2 scores under 50, whereas last year it was like 2 scores over 50, and that's what sucked us in. But he's been solid. I mean, he's averaging 65.5, but it's just like,
no, I'm not spending trades at hooker. End of story. I just think it's such a waste of a trade spending trades at hooker in such a shit position.
Trust me, I know. I brought up Connor Watson at 300k, and you hated that, so I'm sure you'd love Reed Money at 640.
Yeah. I would really enjoy that. I'd like to go back in time about 4 weeks and jump on Connor Watson, but you can't get them all right, can you? And again, like the last hold on the list is Joey Lussick. I don't think 61 break even, 451k. He'll probably score 40 to 45 at worst case. There's no need now with Brendan Hands not on the bench with Bryce Cartwright back. We kind of were hoping this would happen last week, and now it has, which is great. I don't think you need to move him on now.
Not everyone has to be upgraded. Like these guys that top out in price but don't really lose money probably aren't massive trade targets. Joey Lussick, Sam Hughes is another one. probably I know that we've got him mentioned here. I don't particularly agree. Someone like a Joe Chan as well.
Mhm.
Like these guys that will just score you what they're priced at. It's like you can rely on that. It's not like a James Schiller and Ethan Strange where they can have a score of 90 one week and a score of 10 the next, where it's like, okay, we need to cash out before we lose bulk money. Like I posted this on X today. Like someone like Sam Hughes and Joey Lussick, they're guys that just do what it says on the tin. And you sometimes don't need to upgrade them because you don't want to run into the trap of, going 2 up, 1 down. So you don't want to be going, 1 up, 2 down. You don't want to be going 2 mid-price guys to a premium and a shit rookie. And then that shit rookie becomes an AE liability. Like I understand that Lussick and like Hughes and all these guys have money on their heads, but in weeks where we have buys and major and mini buys and teams are missing 4 or 5 or 6 or 3 teams are missing in that week, like they're guys that you can just play because you know what they're going to do for you. And it's like, do you want them or do you want, maybe 10 points extra upgrading them to a somewhat premium?
Yeah, spot on. Hit the nail on the head. All right, let's move on to the sells. Ryan Pappenhausen, we don't really need to talk about, do we? We, use the cash, move him on 4 to 6 weeks. I would say we're probably looking at 6 to 8 weeks, just based on injury history. But unfortunately, he prayed. We hope he's back very soon.
Doesn't have to be this week. If you're looking at Drinkwater, but you're just like not happy with the break even, doesn't have to be this week, but
Good
definitely
point.
next week, like when someone bottoms out, picking them up. Jack Bostock, 594K, far out. I really wish I had a time machine and went back and picked up Bostock. Next year, I say this every year, I'm not going to let trials impact my decisions because we saw him put up 50 and 50 with 2 tries in the trials, and we're like, basis shit. And we saw this with Peter Corey, didn't we? Like 2 tries and went really well, and people jumped on. It's like, I'm not going to let trials impact my decisions on play. We should be looking at trials for roles, not production. And yeah, Bostock was one that I wish I jumped on because owners have made nearly 300K, which is just absurd. But outside of Herbie now, looking at jumping off him regardless. As with the Canberra Raiders boys, Schiller and Strange, we were talking about them last week. People were like, don't jump off. You could have jumped off last week, but I think this week's the time to do it.
Get that garbage out of here!
Yep.
Absolutely.
Time to move on, unfortunately. And also I'm going to play it twice.
I was going to say, you got to keep playing this with the next man.
Tamari Martin, get the fuck out of my team. 419K, 55 break even. I jumped on Tamari Martin. And you know what? The best part was I boosted for him. And he has provided me a 29, a 50, and a 28 or something like that, which has just been dog shit. And his price has topped. Shorty in the chat. I'm sure Shorty's he's with me on this one. We both got sucked in. But yeah, Tamari Martin hasn't really kind of hit anywhere near the heights we would like from him. Definitely a move on with where his break even is. You said we don't agree on this one, Joe Chan. I think I know that we're looking at obviously a guy at 320K, so there's not really much cash there to actually move around and use for a viable trade. But at 45 break even, we saw last week there's a potential AE nightmare there. So for me, I'm trying to minimize the amount of people that are really going to fuck my VC loophole. But sell me on why I should keep him.
Yeah, I don't think it's a case of like. It was just unlucky with injuries. I mean, like look at these PPM when he's come off the bench. It's 1.6, 1.4, and then all of a sudden 0.4. Like that's not a bad game. That's just a role change where he had to cover in the backs. Like you're gonna lose cash for the next 2 weeks. It's gonna suck, but like there's not much cash in his head. There's 84K, which is like the upgrade of what we started with, and like I think over this origin period when people are gonna get banged up and bruised and whatnot, then like he could find a role. I mean, he's also 1 injury away from playing 80 minutes, like Eli Katoa and Sean Bloor. And if he's going back and playing 35 minutes off the bench and scoring me at 1.6, amazing. If he was like 420K, then yeah, I'd get around it. But it's like, to who? Like, who are we selling to at 323K? Yeah. It's like, why?
I think, look, if you've got a ton of cash in your bank from the Fuller trade or whatever, and you're flush with cash like Matrix usually is every week, then maybe you can upgrade to a Nickera or something like that.
Dom, I was gonna say someone like a Dom Young. If you have the jewels, probably like the bottom. Yep. Well, I'm not treating him to a 400K guy. It's just like, what's the point? But no, I feel like there's a bounce back for Chan. His PPM is great off the bench. Like I said, 1.3 and 1.6. He scored 42 points in 26 minutes and 39 points in 28 minutes. And then played 40 on the weekend and scored 15 where he was stuck out at center. So not the end of the world for me.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. And look, definitely not a priority trade out. But look, if you've got no other fires to put out and no other upgrades to make, then yeah, you might want to minimise that VC loophole issue.
Covers 14 and 18, which are the bye weeks where you've got to play a full squad and there's like 3 teams in the bye. So like Joe Chan scoring to 40 points is your 17th man in those shit weeks. It's not the end of the world either.
Yeah. Is it 18? There's only one team on the bye. I think it's 17 with 3. It's the one after.
Sorry. So what is it? 13, 16, 19.
Yeah. So 14 and 17 and 20.
He covers 14, 17, and 20. So he covers all 3.
Okay.
So not the end of the world.
And there's no one really putting their hand up to go, yeah, you should downgrade me. There's no bottom dollar 2RF coming through anyway.
No.
All right, let's move on to the watch list.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
It's actually my new favorite stinger.
Every time.
Silfar Logo, where we spoke about him a little bit earlier on, he is definitely a watch just due to the fact that, one, he is not bottom dollar. He's 339K. You know, if he was bottom dollar, we'd be having a different conversation on going early to free up cash and all that kind of shit. But you're not paying bottom dollar. You're paying 140K above bottom dollar to bank on a guy before he's even going to make you cash with an injury that he didn't finish a game with last week. So it doesn't make sense to go early.
He's more expensive than Joe Chan. That's funny to look at it, and everyone's thinking like he's not a slam dunk buy. Like I think he's a stud, but he's but by no means some kind of slam dunk buy. Had the try on the weekend, so with a line break off the scrum there, so that was impressive. But he scored 41, as we said, didn't play the full game out. Does have some kind of obviously a knee concern, and only played 52 minutes. So let's just chill. It's not. It's also not like some world-class matchup either. Like the Sharks have been pretty good defensively this year, so let's just chill.
Yeah, agreed. KO Weeks, also chill. He's on the bye. We've seen this go horribly wrong in past seasons. Not so much this year so far, but we've seen it go wrong in past seasons where you go early on a player that's on a bye or whatever, and they end up getting a training injury. AKA Jacob Carraz did it to me last year. I bought him on the bye to free up a bit of cash and go early, so I had plans booked for a fortnight. This is why you don't book your plans, kids, because they go and get injured at training like half of the Bulldogs squad did last year, and then I had traded him out without him even taking a step on the field. So that was fun. Any reason not to get KO Weeks?
No, so I'm just laughing because I remember the week in question. Like people were just, you weren't the only one. It sucks. No reason to go on KO Weeks now. Greg Marzu, 501K, 67 break even. Fuck, I'm praying for a week where no Marzu try, because even if he gets 50, it's still a purchase at 490K, which just feels like amazing value for Marzu. So he's a guy that I'm definitely watching. Hey, even if he scores, like I'm not against a Greg Marzu 80-point performance, because 80 points is 50 points in BP with a try. So he's got a really nice break even at 67. He's not going to hurt you if he goes big. Obviously it's only benefit if he goes small as well. So he's a guy I'm definitely looking at in Greg Marzu.
Just need to see a little bit more. That's all. Just a little bit of attacking flair from him. A little bit of what we saw last year. If we can see that and the base goes up, I'm very, very tempted.
Just quickly, this is your final warning, Jason. We will not be discussing the Tigers number 7. He's banned on this podcast, especially when Braino and I hosting. So this is your last warning about bringing up the Tigers 7. Jason
stitched us up big time there because he probably heard last week the big rant about Bud Sullivan. So we won't be mentioning him. But he's the Dean Mariner of this episode.
Isn't it funny that Tigers got slammed in the media for buying too many halves, and now
we got none. Yeah, rough. Matty Sherwood's asking in the chat, "Where's Yam on the holds?" Because he's here every week. The Yam. We're still holding the Yam, I'm assuming.
Is it crazy to look at him as a purchase?
I mean, he's bottomed out. Plays 13.
It's just like, as much as like we laughed that he got 70 last week. It's like he needed a line break assist, a try, and a line break,
and the team to not be looking when he scored his try. So there was no defensive
defense. It's Dylan Edwards and Taylor May versus Jai Arrow, and it's like that's the only way that you get an attacking returns. No, look, he's 419K, break even of 15 this week. He has lost 39K on the season. We should be making that back this week, which is nice. And that's the reason why we were so staunch on the hold. So like, all it takes for these center wings is one good score, and they're back to where they were, and then you can jump off. You can cut your losses then. You can be that gambler at the pub when you lost $1,000 and you finally break even. It feels like a win. You've got your money back and just get out of there then. But 15 break even against the Dogs this week. Not a great matchup against Stephen Crichton. Probably the toughest assignment you can have as a center. But 15 break even, it's fine. Probably borderline not playable, but still a fine hold.